Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that don't get said enough. Men may look strong on the outside, but on the inside, there are things that hit them harder than life itself. And you might be surprised what those things are. See, it's not always the loud, dramatic gestures or the big declarations. No, sometimes it's the quiet, powerful moves that go straight to a man's soul. That's when he starts melting mentally. That's when you get into the space no one else can reach. Men are emotionally wired differently, but they respond deeply to certain forms of emotional connection. See, a lot of people think men are simple. They assume all we care about is surface level stuff. What we see, what we want, what we chase. But let me tell you something real. A man may not always show it. He may not always say it. But when a woman taps into his emotional core, that man begins to melt in ways he didn't even know were possible. You gotta understand something. Men have been taught for generations to hide what they feel, to stay strong, to keep things bottled up. But that doesn't mean we don't feel it. It just means we've been trained to bury it deep. And when someone finally reaches into that space with patience and care, we can't help but respond. Now, what most women don't realize is that men crave connection too. We just don't always know how to ask for it. We're taught to be providers, protectors, the ones who never break, never cry, never need. But deep down, we're hungry for someone who sees beyond the mask, someone who understands that underneath that strength is a heart that longs for peace, for loyalty, for reassurance. When a woman gives a man emotional safety, when she creates an environment where he can be himself without fear of judgment, that's where the shift happens. That's when he starts opening up. That's when he starts showing his real self. Not the tough exterior, not the guy with the answers, but the man who carries weight silently every day and finally feels like he doesn't have to do it alone. You want to see a man melt? I'm talking about melt mentally. Don't just touch his body, touch his spirit. Make him feel heard. Make him feel seen. Most men walk around this world invisible in their struggles. No one stops to ask how we're really doing. So when a woman looks him in the eyes and says, I see you, I feel you, I believe in you, that hits hard. That stays. That's what we remember. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't even take much. It's not about dramatic speeches or big gestures. It's the little things. A gentle word, a thoughtful question, a quiet hug after a long day. It's about being there when no one else is. It's about listening without trying to fix. Just being present. Men don't always express their emotions the way women do. Sometimes we go quiet. Sometimes we distract ourselves. But when you show a man that you're not going anywhere, that you see through the silence, that you care even when he pulls back, that breaks something open in him. He starts to trust. He starts to feel safe. He starts to let go of the armor. And that's when you see who he really is. Not the version he shows the world, but the one that only you were patient enough to meet. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up when he expects everyone to walk out. It's about choosing him even when he's not at his best. When a woman becomes that for a man, he can't forget her. That's the woman who becomes unforgettable, because while the world teaches men to suppress, to harden, She's the one who gives him permission to soften, not because he's weak, but because with her, he finally feels strong enough to be real. This kind of emotional connection, it doesn't just touch the heart, it rewires the mind. It changes how he sees you. It changes how he sees himself. You become more than a partner. You become his peace, his anchor, his home. And no matter how far he goes in life, no matter how loud the world gets, he'll always remember the one woman who saw his soul and stayed long enough to hold it. Authentic appreciation has the power to disarm even the toughest man. See, a lot of people misunderstand how men operate emotionally. They assume that if a man looks strong, acts confident, or doesn't speak about his feelings, he doesn't need reassurance or recognition. But let me tell you something from the heart. Every man, no matter how bold he walks or how proud he stands, is still looking for one thing deep inside: appreciation. That feels real. Not praise for show, not flattery that sounds rehearsed. I'm talking about genuine, heartfelt appreciation. The kind that says, I see what you're doing. I see who you are, and I'm thankful for you. That kind of message goes straight to a man's soul. You want to watch a man melt mentally? Appreciate him in a way that no one else does. Not because he asked for it, not because he demands it, but because you recognize his effort when the world doesn't even notice it. See, men carry a silent load. We take on stress, pressure, expectations, and half the time we do it without ever mentioning it. We go out into the world and fight battles, wear our masks, and keep pushing even when we're tired. And we do it because we feel it's our responsibility. But just because we don't complain doesn't mean we don't feel it. Just because we don't say we need support doesn't mean we don't crave it. When a woman comes along who truly sees that, who doesn't wait for the perfect moment to give him his flowers, but instead appreciates him while he's in the middle of the grind, that's when something breaks down inside of him. That's when the emotional walls start to crumble, not from force, but from warmth. It doesn't have to be some long speech. It could be as simple as saying, I notice how hard you've been working lately. I know you're doing your best. I'm proud of you. That small moment of appreciation, that sticks. You might forget you said it, but he won't. Because in a world that only rewards outcomes, that woman is seeing his effort. And that right there makes all the difference. That's when he starts thinking differently about her. That's when she goes from being someone he cares about to someone he needs in his life. Because he's not just admired, he's understood. You know, people talk all the time about how to keep a man's attention, but they don't talk enough about how to keep his heart. If you want to reach a man on a level that nobody else can, stop trying to impress him and start appreciating him. Not just when he's winning, not just when he's strong, but especially when he's tired, when he's unsure, when he's struggling. Because real appreciation shows up when it's inconvenient, and when you give it freely without agenda, you do something to that man's spirit. He starts to look at you differently. He starts to feel safe in your presence because now he knows this woman sees him in a way no one else does. And this kind of connection, it's rare. Most men don't get to experience it. They move through relationships where they're expected to be tough, to provide, to lead, but no one ever stops to say, thank you for caring so much. And when that rare woman shows up and says just that, his entire world shifts. She becomes a sanctuary, not just a partner. She becomes someone he wants to protect, cherish, and never let go of. And because she touched something no one else even thought to reach. That's the power of authentic appreciation. It's more than words. It's a reflection of care, of emotional intelligence, of deep connection. And when a man feels that kind of energy from a woman, he doesn't just respond, he remembers. He holds on to her. He opens up to her. And in that space, love stops being a performance and becomes something honest, unshakable, and real. Silent support in tough times impacts a man more than loud advice. Most people don't realize that men are often at their most vulnerable during seasons of silence. When he goes quiet, when he pulls back a little, when his energy seems off, that's not always distance. Sometimes that's a man carrying a heavy load in silence because he doesn't want to appear weak or incapable. Society teaches men from a young age to be providers, protectors, and problem solvers, but it doesn't teach us how to ask for help. It doesn't give us room to fall apart or lean on somebody. So we hold it in, we carry it alone, and we get real quiet when the pressure gets heavy. That's why the kind of support that truly melts a man isn't loud, pushy, or filled with solutions. It's the kind that sits next to him in stillness and lets him feel understood, not fixed. When a woman learns to be present in those quiet storms, not demanding explanations, not lecturing, but just standing by with patience and belief, she steps into a space that no one else occupies. That's when a man feels seen in a way he's not used to. It doesn't take much. It might just be her placing a hand on his shoulder when words don't come. It could be her making his favorite meal without saying a word about what's wrong. It's the way she doesn't try to drag his emotions out of him, but instead creates a safe space where he feels he can come to her when he's ready. That quiet strength, that calm presence, it becomes his anchor. You want to melt a man mentally? Show him that he's allowed to be human around you. Show him that his silence doesn't scare you, that his bad days don't push you away, that you're not here only for the sunshine moments. That changes everything because men are used to conditional care, love that disappears when they stop performing. But when a woman stays, when he's not on top of his game, when he's doubting himself, when life is weighing heavy, that kind of loyalty breaks through walls no one else could crack. He may not say it in the moment, he might not have the words for it, but deep inside he feels it, he remembers it, and it builds a kind of trust that you can't create with words alone. Men don't always need you to solve their problems. Sometimes they just need to know they're not facing them alone. Just knowing someone's in their corner without judgment or pressure gives them the courage to keep pushing forward. It gives them strength they didn't know they had. That's the power of silent support. It's not about doing something grand. It's about doing something real. And let me tell you, once a man feels that from you, you start to occupy a space in his life that nobody else can replace. You become the quiet voice in his storm. You become the one person who didn't walk away when things got hard. And that kind of memory, it stays with him. It softens him. It melts him because it proves that you're not just there for the easy version of him. You're there for the real one, and that's the version of himself he rarely shows to anyone. When a woman can offer that kind of support, she becomes more than a partner. She becomes peace. She becomes comfort. She becomes the person he runs to, not from. And in a world where men are expected to hold it all together, having someone who allows him to fall apart without fear, now that's rare. That's powerful. That's unforgettable. That's when love becomes more than just a word. It becomes a feeling he can't deny, even in silence. Small gestures of respect make a man feel seen, valued, and safe. A lot of people talk about love, but not enough people talk about the power of respect, especially when it comes to men. You see, love might bring a man into a relationship, but respect is what keeps him there. It's not about submitting to him or feeding his ego. It's about making him feel like who he is and what he brings matters. Respect is oxygen to a man's soul. And the thing is, it doesn't take grand gestures or over-the-top praise to give it. The smallest, most thoughtful signs of respect, those are the ones that leave the deepest impact. It could be how you listen when he speaks, how you let him finish a thought without interrupting, how you speak about him in public when he's not around. Those little moments might not seem like much, but to a man, they hit different. When a man is out in the world, he's competing, he's striving, he's working to be something, to build, to lead, to earn. He's dealing with pressure and expectations, and often that comes with criticism, doubt, and being underestimated. So when he comes home, the one place he wants to feel respected, seen, and valued is in your presence. He doesn't want to be challenged at every corner or made to feel like he's not enough. What breaks a man down over time isn't always the outside world. It's coming home to someone who doesn't believe in him, who doesn't trust him, who doesn't speak to him like he matters. On the flip side, what builds him up more than anything is the woman who chooses to respect him, not because he's perfect, but because she understands the weight he carries and honors it. A man notices everything. He may not say much, but he watches closely. He watches how you talk to him in private, how you refer to him in front of others, how you look at him when he's not watching. When you show him respect in the small things, you give him something solid to stand on. You become his refuge, his reminder that even if the world doubts him, there's one person who doesn't. That belief, it lights a fire in him. It motivates him. It centers him. It makes him want to rise up and protect what he has with you. Because respect to a man is not just emotional, it's spiritual. It touches something deep in his identity. Respect can look like encouragement. It can look like trusting his decisions even when you're unsure. It can look like asking for his opinion, not because you can't decide for yourself, but because you value how he thinks. It can look like speaking well of him to your family and friends, showing him that his presence in your life is something you're proud of. When a man sees that, he doesn't just feel strong. He feels safe. He feels like he can be himself without being torn down. And here's what most people don't understand. The man who feels respected is the man who gives his best. He doesn't just survive in that relationship. He thrives. He opens up. He gives more. He sacrifices more. He builds more. Because now he's not fighting for space. He's not trying to prove his worth. He knows he's already valued. And that security creates a bond that's hard to break. He starts to treat you like a queen, not because you demand it, but because he feels like a king in your presence. You want to know what melts a man's mind? What makes him think of you in the middle of the day? What makes him loyal without pressure? It's not just the way you love him, it's the way you respect him. The way you show up for him in the moments that don't seem big. Because those moments, those quiet, subtle reminders that he matters, they echo louder in his soul than any big speech ever could. When a woman believes in his potential more than he does, it shakes him. There's a kind of power in quiet belief, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't pressure, doesn't judge. It just stands there like a rock and says, I see more in you than you see in yourself right now. That kind of belief hits a man at his core. Most men walk through life with doubt riding on their back. We try to act confident, speak like we got it all figured out, move like nothing can touch us. But the truth is, most of us wrestle with fear, failure, and the constant question, am I enough? And we rarely say it out loud because we're supposed to be the ones who lead. We're supposed to be the ones with the plan. So when life knocks us off track, when we fall, when we lose our way, the silence gets loud. That's when doubt creeps in and starts whispering lies. That's when we start to believe maybe we're not built for more. But then she comes along, the woman who looks us in the eye and says, you were made for greater than this. And she doesn't say it once, she says it again and again, even when we try to brush it off. She sees the potential behind the pain, the purpose behind the pause. She sees the man inside the mess. And she doesn't try to fix him, she believes in him. She doesn't nag him to be better. She reminds him that he already is. That belief, that's not just encouragement, that's oxygen to a suffocating soul. Men don't always ask for help, but we notice who's standing there when we're low. And when a woman offers belief instead of judgment, support instead of control, that's when she earns a place in his heart no one else can claim. Because in that moment, she's not just loving the man he is, she's loving the man he's fighting to become. That kind of love doesn't push, it pulls. It draws out the greatness he forgot was there, and it gives him something he can't create alone, the strength to try again. You don't have to be loud to lift a man up. You just have to be consistent. Keep speaking life over him when he feels dead inside. Keep reminding him who he is when the world calls him a failure. Keep showing him that his pace doesn't define his purpose. That even when he's down, he's still worth standing beside. That's the kind of faith that moves a man. That's the kind of love that lasts. And listen, when a man finally rises from his doubts and sees himself through your eyes, he doesn't just feel empowered, he feels indebted. Not in a burdensome way, but in a way that makes him want to honor the one who believed when no one else did, including himself. He starts to protect that energy. He starts to value that presence. He starts to build not just for himself, but for the one who stood by him in his darkest chapter. You want to know what makes a man melt mentally? It's not just physical touch. It's not constant praise. It's knowing that someone sees his flaws and still sees his future. That someone can look past the moment and speak into the man he's becoming. That belief creates space for transformation. It creates loyalty without force. It creates love that doesn't just survive storms, it learns how to dance in the middle of them. That kind of woman doesn't have to demand a man's respect. She earns it through her faith in him. And when he finally sees what she saw all along, that's when he becomes the man he was always meant to be. Not because she changed him, but because she reminded him of the strength he forgot he had. That's the kind of impact no one forgets. That's the kind of love that doesn't fade. That's the kind of belief that melts a man from the inside out. Emotional loyalty creates a bond that no physical attraction can match. A lot of people chase surface-level love. They want the looks, the chemistry, the compliments. But what truly lasts, what really binds a man to a woman in a way that changes him forever, is emotional loyalty. That's when a woman shows up for him not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. That's when she doesn't run when he's struggling, when he's unsure, when he's not his most charming or confident. That's when she stands beside him when others would walk away. And let me tell you something, a man never forgets emotional loyalty, because that's not something you can fake. That's not something he finds everywhere. When he sees that you are still standing, still believing, still choosing him, when the world is spinning, that hits his soul in a way physical attraction never will. It's not just about being there when things are good. It's about being consistent when things are uncertain. It's about not switching up when the pressure rises. It's about keeping his secrets safe, protecting his peace, and staying emotionally connected, even when he's not easy to love. You show a man that your love doesn't break under pressure, that your presence doesn't depend on his performance, and something inside of him starts to shift. He starts to trust in a way he never trusted before. He starts to relax his guard. He starts to bring you into spaces no one else has ever seen. Loyalty like that isn't loud. It's not showy. It doesn't need to be posted online. It shows up in how you speak to him when he's vulnerable, in how you defend him when he's not around, and how you remind him of who he is when life has stripped him down. It's emotional stability. It's knowing that even if he's having a bad day, your heart doesn't waver, that even when he fails, your faith in him doesn't disappear. That kind of woman is rare, and when a man finds her, he doesn't want to let go. Men are not always quick to express their feelings, but they feel deeply. They remember moments when someone showed up for them emotionally. They remember when someone listened without trying to fix, loved without trying to change, supported without keeping score. And they especially remember the ones who never made their lowest moments feel like a burden. The woman who stays emotionally connected when he feels disconnected from everything else, that woman becomes home. That woman becomes safety. And in a world full of temporary, she becomes his forever. You want to melt a man's mind, touch his heart, and stay in his thoughts. Be loyal with your emotions. Be consistent with your care. Don't just love him when he's strong. Love him when he's tired. Don't just support him when he's winning. Be there when he doubts himself. Your emotional loyalty tells him that he can exhale with you, that he doesn't have to pretend, that he doesn't have to earn your love every day. It's already his. And that sense of emotional safety, that peace, it becomes addictive to a man who's always had to be strong for everybody else. He might not show it at first. He might try to act like it doesn't matter. But trust me, it does. Because deep inside, every man is searching for someone who won't leave when he's not perfect, who won't stop loving him when he's not performing. And when he finds that, he starts loving back in ways that are deeper, stronger, more intentional. He doesn't want to lose that kind of connection. He doesn't want to risk that kind of loyalty. He protects it. He cherishes it. He rises to meet it. That's what emotional loyalty does. It builds a foundation that looks good even when the feelings fade for a moment. It creates depth that outlasts attraction. It creates a love that not only melts his mind, it anchors his heart.